So, as you navigate between your inner world, your ability to sense your inner world, your ability to receive input, data via your intuition, as you do this, and then you receive data or input from the external world, you are going to encounter contradictions. In other words, you may experience something in your external world that does not line up with your internal world. So, the best example of this are lies. So, the first time I realized that I could hear lies was I worked as a technical writer on a contract basis. And I would be put wherever there was room for me in a company. So I ended up in an office next to another person, and I could hear him through the walls. I could hear his voice. He spent most of the day on the phone, he was in sales. And I could not hear the content of what he was saying. I could just hear the sound of what he was saying. And it bothered my ears. It annoyed me. It irritated me. I didn't like it. And over time, it was more and more of a problem. But luckily, I don't recall that it was a long time. But because my husband also worked at this company and he was um, more influential than I, he ended up learning that this person brought forward a fraud and embezzlement scheme. And so I believe that what I was hearing was that person concocting and arranging that fraud and embezzlement scheme. Thereafter, I found that I couldn't track lies very well. I couldn't understand them. They would bother my ears. Lies kind of confuse me, and I find that I have difficulty listening to lies. Usually that I end up faulting myself and I decide that I'm not doing a good job in the relationship, for instance. One relationship ended with a great deal of lying on the part of the person I was in relationship with. And I remember scolding myself because I wasn't listening to this person. Well, it turned out that they were lying about everything. I think they would even lie about whether or not they went to the grocery store or where they had lunch. Because once you start lying, as much as I think this person was lying, you can't keep track of all of it. And so you lie about everything. So, one way we can think of lying is that lies are life denying as opposed to life affirming. And any kind of life denying activity will start to bother you, not line up for you, not feel good to you, as you get your life in alignment with your truth, the truth of your experience. My experience of life denying behavior is that it is a very dark road and it does not have a very bright outcome. And you will be able to discern this, even if you don't fully understand what is happening or what the result of someone's behavior is. Nowadays, for me, if I drive down the street and I see people smoking cigarettes, it's always a little bit of a shock to me now. And believe me, I at one time smoked cigarettes. Quitting smoking was one of the most difficult things at that time that I had ever done. Now I see that it is very life denying. What I think is that I had one parent who I believe was very destructive toward me. And that is life denying. And so I think there is a way of quietly, gently, a little bit at a time, destroying ourselves with a habit like cigarette smoking. Now, I do believe, and I've been told by healers, that if you are truly in alignment about smoking cigarettes and you feel good about it and you know or believe you can do it safely, then indeed you can. But I think for most of us, it's difficult to align with cigarette smoking because we know too much about it at this point. Excuse me. Life-denying behavior can show up in all kinds of other ways. Obviously, addiction, not eating well, but also telling yourself stories so that you are unavailable for relationships or relating. Not being able to participate in life fully can feel life denying if you're around someone who is like that. Um, Committing lies and manipulations, having schemes going a lot in your life. This can feel life denying as opposed to life affirming. So you can begin to explore your experience of lies. Another way that I sense lies, um, just obfuscation or something that is actually a form of manipulation, is the person will be looking slightly down and side to side like this. I hope that shows up. I can't see myself when I'm doing it. But when they're doing that, they're calculating, in my experience, they're calculating what they can get by with. So a child might do this, but you may see it in an adult. Another thing is that there will be some kind of an internal conflict for you. You will feel in your body an internal conflict if the person is lying, because it won't line up properly. Sometimes you will know, you'll have evidence of the truth, and you may hold onto that evidence for dear life. I was in this one relationship, and we were living together, and I got a message that a package had arrived. And I had waited probably about 2 months for this package. This was somewhat recent. And the person I lived with said that the package wasn't there. The package wasn't there. And I was so confused, and I had a notion that the package was, let's say, this long. It's just an idea that I had that of what it was, that it would come in that form. And so I looked again, and the person was like, "What, you don't believe me?" and was kind of nasty about it. And I just fled. I went outside, ostensibly to look for the package, but also just to get away from that, because there was something, it was very confusing and in my mind. I ended up talking to a neighbor to see if they had gotten the package. And then when I came in, I saw that the mail that my partner had brought in, there was a package, but it wasn't the right size. But anyway, I opened it, and it was indeed the correct package. But that my confusion, my discomfort, all of that is a good example of when the truth is just not lining up. Things are not feeling right. And this is really important for you to sense when this happens to you, so that you know when things aren't feeling right. I read an article a friend sent me in the Washington Post about a woman who was in the recent condo building that collapsed in Florida. And she woke up feeling that something wasn't right. She thought maybe she had left the patio door open. that wasn't the problem, but when she went to check on the patio door, she realized that the building was moving. And she saw a crack appear in her wall, and so she got dressed and got out. She was fortunate to be able to get out. So this feeling where things don't line up, things don't feel right, is something for you to really notice and pay attention to. Sometimes you're going to be fortunate enough to find out that indeed things aren't right. Uh, Other times you may never know. I recently was at a party where things did not feel quite right. Things weren't lining up. I had a discomfort. I left the party. And now all I think is that there were a couple of life denying people there. I'm not, I don't know in what form. I'm in with one person, it felt like they were impervious to relating to other people. They just didn't actually want to relate. Maybe they didn't have the ability to relate to other people in any true way. I'm not saying they were actively lying, but that's what I think might have been what I was feeling. But the important thing is that when I was feeling it, then I chose to leave. So uh, I want you to start to notice when things aren't lining up between your inner experience and your outer experience, and even whether or not the situation feels satisfying to you. Because if it doesn't feel satisfying to you, then why be in that situation? And then you're learning to trust yourself. You're learning to trust the experiences, the feelings, and make things comfortable for you. Just as if you had someone you loved very much and they were uncomfortable in a situation, you might do what you could to make them comfortable. Maybe you bring a child to a party and they really, really don't like being there. Then after a while, maybe it's time to go. So treat yourself with that kind of respect and begin noticing when things just aren't lining up. So I'm going to move the time for this YouTube live to 11 a.m. Mountain Time. And I hope you who are here at noon today can make 11 a.m. next week. I'm experimenting with times as I find what works best in my schedule. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you for watching this as a recording, if indeed that's what you do. And please subscribe and press the bell so that you will be notified. And I'd love to receive any comments you might have. So thank you so much. Enjoy the holiday.